Can we get Trace done that he can skidoo?
Sure.
I'm here till 7.
Oh,
Yeah.
she won't pick you up before. Stand on the street corner, maybe somebody else will.
What time's the awards banquet?
7:30.
Oh, okay.
Well, do you want to, we can do a little bit out of order. Although
Go ahead.
Go with whatever, yeah.
Yep.
Start.
just start.
Yeah.
Let's just start
Okay,
checking
so
stuff
up
out.
first, we have the engineering proposal for sanitary sewer capital improvement plan. I had emailed all of that to you last week. I had emailed that to all of you, is what I meant to say, last week. So, this is something that Lance was looking for to kind of, from HRG to kind of help us with decisions regarding the sewer system. So, I don't know if you have any, if you
Yeah,
want Dave to go over things, or if you have questions. or-
Sure, I can kick off with some stuff. So Dave, tell me about phase one. What's the split between the finance team and engineering work? Like,
Yeah,
shoot,
so-
don't we have a lot of that already?
The phase one is primarily the non-finance team stuff. So that
Okay.
would be us taking basically a deeper dive into the binder that's sitting on Rob's desk that we have the digital version of, and doing a long-term evaluation of like actually identifying projects. So the Penvest project that we have scoped right now,
Yep.
we designed. Rob and I just sat in his office for I don't know, a couple hours and came up with that based on all the CCTV data. And so what we're talking about here is taking that and trying to come up with a list of projects in an order that makes sense. That
Okay.
would then be able to be implemented with the financial financing.
And we don't have that yet? That doesn't exist somewhere?
Not as far as I'm aware, no.
Okay.
Now we do, I should say, we have the NASCO rated CCTV data in that binder, but that is pipe segments and manhole specific. And so it's not broken down into like an actual project area. It's kind of, if you look at if you were to be able to sort that by like highest need to lowest need, it wouldn't split out
Okay.
the area in which those projects need to
Okay.
be done.
So phase one is all engineering. It's basically chunking up the system, telling us what order we're going to do it in. Is it fair to say we're going to have to do that regardless of the finance side of things? Like we need that list, right?
Yeah, I think that would certainly be something that would be nice to have, and so that Rob doesn't have to go back every time there's a grant application that's up for a new project or something, and come up with something, right? So that if there would just be a list of projects, you can say, yep, that one, and go for
So,
that.
Yeah,
I guess
tell me more.
So, when they did this pipe rating, we did what we had money to do, which was not the whole borough.
Yep.
And they went through and found things, and then I believe that Rob generated the map that had like the color coding, I'll
Okay.
call it. So, red was really bad, orange was bad, and it got gradually better with them. So we have a map that has that, and then I think Rob also added to it anything that we recently cameraed that we had news about here. And so we have that, but what they might have said, oh, this section of pipe is red, and it's, a block. And when you actually look at that one, maybe there's one part of that pipe that's really bad, but the rest of it isn't. So it might only be a spot repair. You wouldn't have to replace the whole thing.
Okay.
And then maybe the stuff that's only kind of bad might be more cracked pipes or a bad manhole or something along those lines. But
There's service connections that were have a bigger penetration than they need or something like that.
Okay.
so, and we have not the whole system. We have maybe 2/3,
No, third.
a third.
We have 1/3 CCTV, right? And then the other 2/3 is going to be included in this, like, and we're just going to kind of do the best we can to figure out how to chunk it.
Yeah, if there's known areas where there's issues, basically, if we don't have any data right now on the rest of that part of the system.
And this scopes the whole system though? Like you're gonna do with whatever you have.
With whatever we have, sure. And there's also a big part of the hours that were estimated to the
Yeah.
phase one associated with the wastewater plant and kind of what the next step would be in terms of a capital project there.
Oh, okay,
Part of
okay,
that.
okay. So part of
It's collection system and the treatment system.
okay. So phase one is a lot of engineering that has to be done regardless of if we do the funding plan and like the rate portion that are phase 2 and 3. Is that fair? Okay.
I think that is a fair statement.
Okay. I have questions on the other phases. I feel like it probably makes sense to go in order though, if there's other things you want to highlight or if other people have questions.
I had overall comments, so I'll just wait for yours.
Okay, fair enough then. Phase 2, it feels like I'm like paying you for what you know versus how long it's going to take. Is that kind of a fair assessment on that? Like that piece is like what grants are out there, what municipal bond, what debt offerings. That's the finance stuff, right?
Yeah, so full transparency.
Yep, I
I
get
had
it.
help with pulling together the scope for that stuff.
Of course.
I don't think it's necessarily a what you know, because we do have hours built into these for, you know,
Sure,
that's
sure.
how we have to estimate all projects. There probably is certainly some, obviously, we're bringing in somewhat of an expertise here
Yep.
to provide options for different strategies for funding projects. But yeah, it's not just like we have this sitting on the shelf ready to go.
Yeah, I got you.
Here.
Okay.
I don't know if that's a good way to answer what you.
No, that's kind of fair. I mean, you're going to build from the list in one and try and put together what funding lines up with like how you've chunked out the engineering work.
Sure, yeah, and over theoretically that
20 years.
20-year planning horizon.
Now, the 20 years I threw out there, and I mean, Margaret had to write up something in the ask,
Sure.
and I just used what you had in the swag.
Sure.
Did the finance folks, the capital planning folks, did they push back on 20 years?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little
It's-
long for a
okay.
typical plan. Normally we're at like a 10, 15 year, but they didn't ask too many questions. They said, you know.
They're going to do what we ask for,
yeah,
kind of,
they're-
right?
They're going to provide
Okay.
what we're looking for.
Okay.
Yep.
So can we back up?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
Now I'm having more thoughts.
Yeah, yeah.
So as you're doing this capital needs assessment, I'm sitting here thinking, one of Rob's biggest complaints, and you'll hear him say it all the time, is that I got a whole book of repairs to do.
Yep.
And we haven't done those, so why would we do further research or further looking when we haven't spent the funds to fix what we have? And what we have found is worse by now, and we have to re-camera it before we do a project anyway, just to see. So, knowing that we've only done, I thought it was more than a third, I really did. Knowing that we've only done a third of the system, how do you come up with the rest?
Yeah, I thought it was more than a third as well, to be honest.
There's 3 basins in the borough, and we started with the west basin because that's the one that we had all the,
Yep.
they claim the worst one as far as our flow numbers go. And what I did when I wrote the proposal, I was smart enough, I did it by footage. And when they started cameraing things, they couldn't camera different segments for different reasons, because there might have been a lateral penetration that they couldn't get the camera past.
Yeah.
As soon as they put the camera in the manhole, they might have went 20 feet and couldn't go. So that held them accountable for doing more pipe work, even though we got some pieces of other, parts done. But based on the footage, I believe we're only about a third, because even though you say there's 3 basins, we did a third. No, not true. It's
You did 2 of the 3 basins, but the 2 smaller ones?
We did 1 basin and part of the second one. So we have probably a third or more covered that we can only cover. Now, I will say, because of their strict camera standards, there are places they weren't willing to shove the camera where we went out, at other times that we went past, like, because they were afraid of losing their camera. And I get it.
Right.
We had since had cambered, but or maybe there was roots in the road and we just went back and cut them out, and then we wrote a camera. Like, I know up at Green Street there, Mrs. Stump's, that was an area where they couldn't camera, and we had cambered that. So there's things like that. So footage-wise, I think it's probably about a third if you count that compared to the remainder. If you're looking at basins, yes, we did the west basin, part of the central basin.
So then, yeah, so that's my question. So then how do you know what else needs
Yep.
to be fixed where else?
The other 2/3, how are you gonna?
And I'll be honest, and this is kind of where, Margaret hits the nail on the head, what I always get allude to, and I think,
Yep,
even
I understand.
I've had that conversation, and I've mentioned that here multiple times. But now what's becoming a problem is we got so much sitting on the shelf, because once we apply for funds or grants, I can't allocate anything towards that, because then it would jeopardize if we would get grant money or funds for that project. So anything we've earmarked now for PennFest is now stuck there.
Off the list. You have to
Yep.
go to like the next thing, right?
So now I'm running out of areas. There's more than enough that we can't afford to fix, but I'm running out of areas to put in for other projects
Yep.
because of that issue.
Yep.
It's nothing to do with there ain't enough to fix. No, there's
Yeah.
plenty to fix.
It's just a function of how the financial system works when you're applying for funding.
And I will mention, Margaret's exactly right. I don't like the NASCO rating stuff because there are some things that I don't agree with. How they rate some of the pipes. Some of it we were looking at down by Lemon Ward Way. There's some segments down there have a pretty poor rating, but the only issue, or the majority of the issue of it is it does this. So there's bellies in it. Structurally, there's nothing wrong with the pipe other than it has some bellies, which means it holds water all the time, but it's not leaking. But when NASCO looks at it, that gets a poor rating, therefore it ends up higher on the list.
Yeah, and you want to use some sort of a standard rating so that what you're telling DEP is, we did the standard rating system for our pipes. And
It's a nationally, organized rating system.
But though, how do you, when you said those pipes go like this, and they get a poor rating, that to me isn't something we need to fix. We need to fix the ones that are
holy.
yes.
There are plenty of those, yep.
But what he's saying is that
I-
when you
yeah.
look at the overall rating, it's a little misleading in some ways.
Right,
We
right.
had one.
Question.
We had one down, I'll just mention this one, I think I mentioned this in Lance when we were talking when we first came on council. Back of the houses down by Industrial Park Road, so the last couple houses, as you leave the borough going west, there's 4 houses, I think, there. There's a sewer line right behind them along that creek. And that pipe got a red rating, which is almost a 5. All because, I'm gonna butcher, not Feaster?
No, it's Donald.
Fuzz?
Donald Cook.
Cook? Feaster. They all have nicknames.
Yes,
Whichever one lived down there.
yeah.
I don't know if you remember, he had landscaping timbers up along the stream that are there. And he drove in rebar to support those landscape timbers so they wouldn't fall in the creek and to hold his property back, so when he rode. Well, one of the 4-foot pieces of rebar he drove, guess what? It went through the top of the sewer pipe. So it penetrated the sewer pipe maybe 2.5 inches. But that whole segment of pipe got a poor rating because at 12 o'clock in the pipe, there's a piece of rebar sticking in it that far. We didn't fix any, but that one had almost a 5 rating just because that one simple penetration in a plastic pipe.
So then, Margaret's question still remains, right? It's
Sure.
what's how close, how much variance, I guess, is a reasonable way to think about it, and the other 2/3.
I mean, to try to identify reasonable project areas
Yeah.
in order to come up with something
The
to
list.
do to implement some solutions. I mean, there could be some quick, dirty push camera checks is a more cost-effective way to try to get a general feel for the assessment of certain streets and stuff, because everything is put in at the same time on the same street usually,
Mhm.
right? But yeah, I mean, we can only do so much with the lack of data for the rest of the system. I mean, we can stick a GoPro down into manholes and turn it both ways. That's pretty common. It's pretty lower budget option instead of having an actual CCTV outfit out there do the whole NASCO thing.
I said before, a quick and easy analysis, honestly, I think you could probably bank on every piece of terracotta and AC pipe that's in the system needs to be replaced.
Yeah, I mean, there's an age component certainly to that, right?
And we have a good part of that in GIS there, you know, and that could be some quick numbers, cause I can give you footages, I could also, which I said before, we discussed that in here. That'd be a quick way to come up with, cause you know, like terracottas every the Cherry Street was 2-foot sections. So just imagine every 2 feet, you have a connection and there's no gasket. And that down there, I took pictures of it, Dave saw it, I know Margaret saw it. The soil around that pipe, black. You know why? Cause it's sewer leaking out. Well, guess what? If the sewer's leaking out when the groundwater's high, guess what? Water's leaking in.
So is the groundwater high in that area?
It doesn't, when it rains, it just.
Oh, okay.
Anything,
Gotcha.
any water, if the groundwater's high or low, it doesn't matter. If it's high, it's gonna get
Through
in.
the soil.
Yeah.
But you just look at it, if the pipe's all black, you know that water's getting out. And if water's getting out, water's getting in.
Well, when we cambered that 1/3 of the section, didn't we get a grant for that?
I think we just paid for that out of pocket, out of general
That was
funds and sewer
that was
funds.
one of our first cap
initiatives.
actions
Okay.
under the, from 2018, I wanna say.
Okay.
2018, that was right the first time.
You know, we have a fair amount of the lines identified. We could spend some more time and identify the rest and just do, you know, Margaret and I were talking this week because we submitted the CBG grant, which we'll talk about here in a minute, but I know a good part of, I'll say the east end of town, southeast, so the Bogar Lane, the Shipton Street, the Laney Street, that's all terrible shape terracotta pipe.
And what's out in the trailer parks?
That's AC line, I believe, most of it. There is some plastic, the laterals.
Those have both been inspected though.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Recently.
Okay.
Jason just
Sales are
inspected the one on the east side of 8th Street just in the spring, early spring, maybe.
So he
part of winter.
cameras that whole system, their whole system.
They had the camera. They paid to do it. They had to pay a plumber, and Jason just was there to verify it.
Oh, okay.
That's what we do when we do the point of sale inspections. And
Gotcha. Gotcha.
They were talking about selling it. I don't think that's happened yet. But, and the other one was inspected 3 or 4 years ago, and they had a bunch of repairs.
Sold and resold.
Winter Pfeiffer sold it,
I can't remember the next guy after him.
but
Okay. So is it better to have like, and like you said, you could just replace the terracotta, but is
I
it?
think that's a given.
But is it good to have like 3 or 4 projects that aren't in that cap plan, or even 5 or 6? You know, like where it's like to put on the list to do versus because you can't do the ones that are on the, you know, the or not cap,
I
but
think any project you come up with needs to go onto a plan. There should
Right.
be a running list, and then as we're looking at new funding, then we choose to either use
right.
one of those projects that's on the list or come up with something different
scope
to add to that funding application, whatever it may be.
Correct.
So that directive or the capital improvements plan should be something that's a tool to use to look at as you're looking to spend money, spend capital assets or capital to improve the asset in the system, basically. So you have the spreadsheet is what it's going to be, and then we have a funding opportunity, whatever that may be. You pick a project from there, depending on if it's something that is a size related or this project is in worse shape right now than this project, so we're going to choose that one over the other, and then kind of go from there. That's the whole idea, I guess, behind the capital improvements plan, to have something just sitting on the shelf that's implementable and ready to go.
It's kind of what we've been doing, and I know Dave, maybe you wouldn't know this, but when we do budgeting, I always give you guys a list of projects, ones that, you know, and some make the cut, and they stay on my list, and the following year, then we move them up. And
So-
we pick the next 1 or 2,
So is the
but at a
gist?
bigger scale.
Yeah. So is the gist that the Penvest application took like all of our current list. Is that a fair, like those were the worst ones?
No,
Or
but
that's
we've got
not
a
a,
couple on the
Okay.
go, and then it's like silly things like, so maybe a grant is, the maximum amount you can get for the grant is $250,000.
which is
Okay, so then you wanna let's pick an area that works for, or
Tiny
two projects that we can put together. Or a section of town that we're allowed to apply for, that'll come up with the
Yeah.
CDBG.
Yep. Yep. Okay. All three of these documents are going to be delivered in a way that we can continue to work from them, right? Like especially the third document.
Yeah.
It's obvious to me that Michelle and Margaret have competency on a lot of what is shared here. So once we get this, we own it, right? And like we can get small help, but the numbers aren't going to look like this if we want like an update based on, let's say, what we actually do at the plant or
Yeah.
in the street, right?
Yeah, theoretically, it should be something that's a working document. It's not
Correct.
something that's, we're gonna give it to you and that's it.
Okay.
That should be something that's updated as projects move forward or as more information comes in about the system. Say, you get a portion of it cameraed or whatever, and more projects come to light, then we can readjust the priority of those, and then also that funding component as well.
The last thing I have is just for phase one. It's like minor stuff, right? So the virtual meeting, I feel like Linda or like Borough Council, like I don't particularly feel the need to be involved in the engineering side, but it would be great to be able to be invited to sit on that stuff. And then the last meeting, you guys have a virtual meeting to present the work. I'm not sure where the finance folks are based out of, but that feels like an easy change
Yeah, we can have
to
it.
come in person
That's
for
fine.
that.
That's totally fine.
Okay, that's all I got.
I think Brian is in New York and Mike is in Pittsburgh, but we
Yeah.
can make that work. Yeah, that works.
I just had overall comments. I think in general, this is a little premature for us to go down this path of this particular project. Not knowing exactly what our overall plan is for the sewer, because there are many different ways to attack a problem, and our immediate problem is to stop the overflows, and then you have those intermediate steps, and then an ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is for all of our piping to be replaced. But there's so many ways to do that, and this document is looking at replacing the pipe, costs for that, timeframes for that, privatization, costs for that. And I think there's more options than those, and there's more ways to go about replacing our pipes and more options of how to go about reducing our overflows. So without knowing what that kind of bigger picture plan is, this I think is pigeonholing us a little bit. And once we replace pipe, this pipe lasts a really long time, like 50 to 100 years. So once we stop the overflows with these peak flows, we don't have such a time pressure to replace the rest of the pipe. We're not confined to this 20-year period of replacing all of our pipe in 20 years. We can space that out longer because we gotta stop the overflows. We gotta replace the pipe, but we don't have to do it in this confines of 20 years. So I think making this just a 20-year look is too short, 50-year or something, because our pipe could last, I just Googled PVC and ABC or ABS pipe lasts 50 to 100 years, as well as apparently this Nova and the slip lining and stuff, that's what it said. And then cast iron lasts 50 to 75 years. According to some Google that I did. But, so I think once we stop our overflows, we can take our time to replace our pipe properly based on the funding that we get. And we won't have to have such crazy rates because we're not putting all of our fixes into this 20-year period.
Yeah, So I guess I'll speak on that just very briefly. The intent isn't that we're gonna be replacing the entirety of the collection system in
Right.
that 20 years. That's, I don't think that's a realistic approach financially, or, nor is it what you need to fix your issues that are persisting on the planet, right? So that's one thing, we're trying to target the worst case areas that are going to make the most impact to the I&I issues and those peak flows that we're talking about. And over the 20-year time horizon, it's just a kind of a snapshot, if you will, in those 20 years of what a realistic approach could be to fund specific projects that might be on this list that we're talking about. There's also, I guess I just wanted to add a component to what we'll be talking about doing here for the plant itself. So we're not just talking about the pipes in the collection system.
Right.
We'd be looking at doing some evaluation of, what could we do at the plant as well.
Right.
And obviously that's a different question or a bigger discussion long term. But what could we do to implement, on the shorter term to extend the life of that existing plant and therefore also stop the overflows, like you said.
Exactly, and without knowing what our overall plan is, I mean, we know the goal, but like you said in some of your answers to my email there about the plant conversion and stuff, because we have to do a study first to figure out what it is we want to do with that plant. Without knowing that, it's hard to assign any of our costs and do this capital improvement plan because we don't know what our goal, or we don't know what that is yet, so we can't do this yet. I think it's premature in that regard. Piping is something we know already, at least what we've cameraed, we know that. But other things, there's too many, we don't know the overall plan yet in order to assign some costs and timeframes and things. And also, just doing strictly a capital improvement plan, it leaves out like pros and cons of various things. If we're looking at privatization versus do we keep our ownership of it, there's some pros and cons and things we would need to consider. Where this document is just basically looking at projects and costs, it's very just cost centric. It doesn't have any of the other factors involved, like pros and cons of things. So I just think it's a little premature in where we are. We're going to need to do something like this eventually. I just think it's too soon. That's my thought.
I mean, there's certainly no pressure, obviously, if
Right,
we're provided
we're
this
gonna have to-
as requested. It's not something that's,
Yeah, we're going to have to
we're
do
pushing
something
anything
like
about
it so we know what our projects are and we have an overall plan. And it's easier to do with just the piping, I think, because we have so much data on that and we know the worst of the worst and we know how to replace pipe and whatnot. But the other bigger picture things we don't know yet. And if we do something with our plant, we really may reduce our overflows. We might, you don't know.
I'll guarantee you it ain't gonna happen. I'll bet you a milkshake on that one.
What's the milkshake bet?
She said if we do something with the plant, that's gonna take care of the I&I issue. And I said, I'm gonna bet her a milkshake.
No, she didn't say I and
That's
I.
that's
She said
true.
all
That,
of
I was gonna say you cheated a little bit.
Same
Yeah,
difference.
We need some
yeah.
clarity on the
Yeah,
milkshake.
I know some of those overflows are bad. Some of them weren't that bad. So,
But you're still gonna have your peak times when it rains, so we know it's getting in there.
Yeah, so I guess you're either dealing with reducing the peaks by closing up the system, or you are allowing for the peaks to be processed at the plant
Right.
somehow.
and we'll get to it when we get to all my multitudes of questions, but I would like us too to focus on reducing the volume, reduce the peak, reduce the source. Reduce the source, therefore you reduce what's getting into our pipes. So I'd like us to find methods of reducing we're not gonna reduce the rain, but reduce the amount of rain that gets into our storm sewer that's making its way into our sanitary sewer. So I'd like us to explore reducing the source. because once it's in there, we gotta deal with it. But let's not get it in there in the first place, figure out how do we get it to not be in there.
Right.
Above my pay grade.
Well, I mean, I think that's what we're trying to do, right, at the end of the day.
That's the goal we all have, is
Right.
to take care of it. So, I guess I'll go back to say that we dealt with all the low-hanging fruit before. We did door-to-door inspections, we did all the,
Smoke testing.
Point of
we
sale?
did that too,
Yeah.
but,
Point of sale?
no, we did that too. I'm thinking of the
Smoke testing?
downspouts. We did the downspout inspections for part of the borough, in addition to the door-to-door. Like, we did the door-to-door way back when. We had people make some changes. We know they changed things back, because that's, you
Can
know,
I ask
they,
a question about that? So when we did, either point of sale or door to door, and I think, Rob, you were alluding to, like, if the basement sub pump was in the floor drain, and the floor drain was actually connected somehow to our sanitary sewer, it was okay for the owner to just not put the sub pump there? We didn't make them change the connection?
No, that's what we require to do. The point of sale continues, that hasn't stopped.
Yeah.
That's ongoing.
Because you were saying, well, if I were the property owner, I would just put it down. But if we made them change the piping so that there was no physical connection
They
underground,
still do it.
You require them to plug floor drains, right?
Correct, they get cemented shut. In
and they'll
some
find-
cases, we have them remove it if it's feasible, but, you know, rather than making somebody jackhammer up their whole basement to fix it, we allow
So we
them to
just
cement
have to-
shut.
yeah.
But people find ways to put it right back in there somehow.
Jason just did one here.
I was gonna
Not
say,
long
yeah,
ago.
'cause
So,
if
you
they-
know,
if we
so-
required them to fix the actual
That they-
connection.
So when we did the door-to-door inspections, just to give you an idea, and this was a while ago, we had these spreadsheets, we had little devices that we used to go in, we had an inspection sheet, we hired some outside professionals to help, and Jason and Steve Benner at the time did some of them. They would go door to door, they would note them all down, they would download the information. Anybody that had something that wasn't permissible, that was a violation, we made them change it all. It was a very long process.
And what did that look like? So when we made them change it, that's my question then. So how can it so easily be changed back?
It's PVC and plumbing, a lot of it, Linda, and they just cut the pipes off and replumb it.
But if we made them change it and they diverted their sump pump drain to the storm sewer, why would they change it back?
Because it's causing them a problem at their property. I don't want a wet yard.
There's not
I
always
was
gonna say,
water
people
in the front yard.
Oh.
They sometimes just have to put it in the back and it just forms a pond back there and
Oh,
then.
okay.
They don't like that, so they'll do what they can to change it.
I can
Because-
show you an
Okay.
example of this situation.
Okay. So
And
maybe
like
we have
how
to-
it's very hard to enforce from like a point inspection to like ensure that through time
Yeah.
there's continuing compliance, unless we did like surprise inspections and had big fines, which is like really politically nasty.
Well,
and
I'm
like
thinking is like.
Well, the
we
problem is
stop
you
doing
can't get in. You
previous-
gotta tell people, hey, we need to
Correct.
get in your basement, we're doing a surprise
correct.
inspection, we'll be there tomorrow.
It's like a Fourth Amendment issue. You're looking like no knock sewer inspection, people. It's
Yeah, I think
crazy.
we almost would- Then I think we do a borough-wide inspection again.
So
See
the
if
reason
there are
we did away
repeat
with that
offenders.
is with so some of the, okay. So when we did the door-to-door inspection, we looked at things like sump pumps, and we might have looked at floor drains and some things like that. But the things that we couldn't see was actually the condition of the lateral, or
Right,
if they
yeah.
had French drains that were around the house that also dumped into the sewer. You can't see those things because they're underground. When we did the point of sale ordinance, that changed it, and now we do that, so now it has to be camera. And if they have, sometimes they have like
There's a
a,
lateral in there that connects the storm to the sanitary, right, sometimes.
not storm to the, it connects the French drains from the house into their sewer lateral.
Yeah.
Not storm at all, it's all into the sewer. And we found those things with these inspections.
That could
In
be a
fact-
lot of water, by the way.
Yeah.
Ton of
Yeah.
water.
And it's like
Exactly.
44% of the inspections that we do fail because they have things like
Yeah.
that. So we know that it's happening there. The reason we did point of sale is to replace the lateral. We've had a couple that were in the teens, like
Mhm.
$18,000 to fix that prior to, and we won't let them transfer the property. We're not very popular, but we won't let them transfer it until the repair's made, or they've set aside an escrow for it.
Right.
So I think that that's catching a lot, and those are the repairs that are making a difference.
Right, those are
Because we're
permanent repairs
eliminating those. So what, what happens is there's some people that are in their home forever and they're the ones we're not getting.
Right.
But the people that are selling, we might do the same place 3 times since we started this because the inspection's good for 3 years.
Mm.
So if they sell it after the 3 years, it has to be inspected again, but somebody's already done the repair.
Right.
So we've done that. We've done all this other work and we just aren't, we aren't finding it. We've been looking.
Yeah, and we have, how many, I guess it would be buildings, not necessarily properties, because we'd have to look at all the buildings, right? To make sure their downspouts aren't going into,
That's what Margaret said, we've done that.
We've done that.
so,
And we've
At
done
least
smoke
twice over,
testing.
at
So
least
how many-
twice over.
so how many properties do we have, and then what is like, I don't think I asked you before, what is our percentage of, how much did we,
That's what Margaret said, that 44% of them all failed.
yeah, but how many did we do? How many's left?
I think it's in the,
The roof
cap.
drain- the roof
drain- It is
Mar-
in the cap.
Yeah, it's in the March cap.
Yeah, I wanna
She-
say it's
that
like
she just gave you.
900 and, I don't know, we did, like, it's a
Yeah.
fair amount.
Yeah,
that we-
exactly.
Inspections, but some of them, like Margaret said, there's some properties we've done 3 times already.
Yeah.
Seems crazy. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I figured as soon as we got this done.
He's been putting a lot into this conversation. I appreciate his input.
So, at any rate, that concludes this.
527 inspections have been completed.
Okay,
Sorry.
nope.
Yeah.
Is there a way to, this is a really stupid question, but is there a way to meter sewer output on a residence?
Mm.
Because I think if they were being built for
I
it,
mean, so
then they would
they
want
do-
to correct the problem.
Well,
They do make area velocity meters. It's definitely not something that's typically done for individual laterals. It's gonna be expensive.
Well, and that's what I brought up to Margaret before when we did the whole tour and, the Rusty Rail was saying, we put all this water into our beer and it's not going into the sewer, but we're getting paid for the sewer. I said to her, is there any way for, the residents, not just them, but residents and businesses to be like their water meter and then their sewer meter?
Yeah, because if they're dumping their downspouts into the sewer, their
Yeah.
sewer bill's gonna be a heck of
Yeah.
a lot higher
Yes.
than the water consumption. And if they're paying for it, then
They'd fix it in a
they'd
hurry.
ask, why is it so high? Well, we can come out and tell you why it's high. Oh, you're dumping your French drains into the sewer.
Yeah.
If you remove that, your bill's gonna go down.
So one just thought about that for you is that meters are generally in the house because you don't want them to freeze, and those connections are outside the house, and you're not gonna catch that. You're only gonna get what's actually going out of the house.
Guard drains, all your downspouts are outside the house. I knew as soon as she started speaking.
Oh, okay.
It, so.
Be nice.
You could do like saldo, like meter pits if we had new development, but it's
Correct.
But it's,
Yeah.
it's bad,
That's
it's
a good
bad
idea,
the
though,
sewers, so the meters aren't distinct, they're not as accurate as a pressurized system like a water meter. It's not something that I've ever seen, to be honest.
Interesting.
Right.
In any of our other clients or anything, nobody can probably put
It would
that.
work.
Good thought.
Yeah, it would work.
I mean,
Just
it's
like when I
great.
fill my pool, I don't like that I have to pay.
Yeah.
sewer
I do
fees
know
for
that some other
Or
of our
people that
clients
water
do
outside,
have
the
like
same
a
thing.
consumptive use discount on their sewers, so if they are able to meter how much they're using, and it's not returning to the system, so you have the water meter, it's what's coming into the building, then you can either meter what's leaving or what's not leaving, right? So you can do a subtraction to estimate it that way, so it's like a rusty rail or something like that. But never the actual sewer itself.
Yeah, that makes sense. I never thought about them having to pay massive sewer bills when they're.
It would certainly put a curb to it.
Water your lawn or something, same thing.
Yep,
Right.
it's the same as
All right, so that was just supposed to be discussion about this first, proposal. Is that good? Did we beat that enough?
Yep.
So here's where I'm torn. The only thing that I think that Tracy would contribute to, would be the mobile food vendor permits. And I don't know if he feels the same as the mayor about things, but the mayor did ask me to have that at the end of the meeting because he was gonna try to get here towards the end of the meeting and he wanted to be a part of that discussion, so. That's why it's on, where it is on the agenda, but Tracy's here now, I don't know if you wanna get his 2 cents, otherwise,
Sure. We can talk about it twice, right? And it's not like breaking any rules.
Right.
Yeah, I would say. What do you think, Trace?
I'm looking at I guess this is the pilot program, which was in a file Hack handed me on his way out the door. Before that, I really didn't have any opinion. I still kind of don't have a strong opinion. When I look at this pilot program, I like a lot of the consideration. I guess there's some things that kind of annoy me. Ivy Coffee just set up, I think for field day this past week. And it became like a big issue. I guess when I look at something, I'm like, if this is on private property and there's not, obviously, you go back to these safety considerations, that stuff should be approved, and they didn't get a permit. But I guess there's, part of me is like, why are we getting so involved? If the safety things are good, why do we care if the school district has a food truck or if they're good with it on their property?
So they didn't get a permit for it?
No.
Yeah, the rules say that.
No, I think he was up and spoke with them, told them they were supposed to have a permit. They set up the next day, didn't do it. I wasn't going up there. I wasn't going up and giving them a hard time. We don't have the ordinance to cover it, so there's really not a darn thing I can do about it.
So I think it came about because it's like a transient retail business, right? We had some different businesses that wanted to come in and set up, and there were questions about it. Was it safe? Do we want them to set up on it, like on the main street? Does that seem safe? Did we want them to be able to set up in front of one of our other local businesses, like if they were just coming to set up? If a coffee truck was coming to set up by Ivy Coffee on 5th Street, did we want it to work that way? Did we want, just, they started going through that and comparing it to the transient retail business license that we have?
I think it's a good idea, but I guess, like there, I mean, the school just, let's go, last night, softball game. Danielle Dressler reached out, wanted Pelicans in their field to sell, Pelican snowballs. I don't understand why we need to be involved with that if it's in the middle of their football field and out of the way.
But though some of them, if they get not like a one-time permit, like an annual, that covers them no matter where, right? They just have to submit where they're going.
Yeah,
The
this-
location.
The location.
Locations don't
If this is the most current one, yeah, they still need to get approval for the location.
And I clearly remember this because Dave brought this up, and I'll speak up, and I know I don't have a vote, but Dave brought this up before, and I said, and I used the school district as an example. What does it matter if they have it on? They have a huge campus, both at the high school and at the other end of town. What does it matter? Like Trace said, if they're out in the middle of the football field.
Well, that's true unless they're like at the edge of a parking lot and there's people standing like in line and it's with the, well, no, but I mean like if it would be dangerous for cars or,
If it's on their
I'm more
property-
saying in terms of the approval, like, if you've gotten an annual permit and the school says, hey, will you come set your coffee truck up or your snowball truck in the middle of our parking lot for field day? It's not us.
I think there was also concern about the clear sight triangle, that no one would park near like a corner. And I think that it was it maybe before it was, great words, or no, I'm sorry, across from the soap place, it's Country Pickers now, but prior to that it was something else, Mercantile or something. And they had a truck that they brought in that was right on the corner, and that was,
And that makes sense.
yeah. And then they moved it and they parked it so that it was right up against the building on the other side, and they were like, well, that's not safe either. And they moved it because of this, and so I think that's why the location thing was involved. I don't know.
Right.
But in that case, in both cases, that's in the right of way.
Right, yeah, whoever applies, they always have to follow the location thing, because they can put their trailer by, or their truck by something that's flammable, or in the right, their site triangle, whatever. So the location, everybody has to obey. But I guess with the Ivy League copy, the problem became, because in our rules, it says that if you are going to be inviting the public to your event, then you have to follow all of the rest of the rules. But, so I guess the school was kind of a gray area. They had put it out on their Facebook page and things like that. We're gonna have this food truck here, or this Ivy, coffee truck here. So then it appears the public is now going to, it's not a private event anymore.
Gotcha.
The public is going to come. So then if it was gonna be understood as public, then they would have had to follow all the other rules, pay the fee, all that kind of stuff. So I guess we have to figure out a better way to define that, maybe, or.
Well, ultimately, if this version number at the top means April 6, 2021, at some point the pilot program needs to become enforceable, or
Yep.
we're wasting our time.
That's my second question. Me personally, I think it's
Yeah.
time for us to put this into an ordinance so that it's
It
enforceable.
needs to go up or down, right? And I think Dave, I mean, he's not here to talk about it, but I remember when this happened, and he like bore most of the burden of trying to figure it out and did this work. I think there's opportunity now that we've seen it and seen some of what the issues could be to make some adjustments and go from there. I mean, that's what pilot means. So I think we should have something. I think it probably looks different, and I'm sure the mayor has ideas about what that can be. I also learned like DCED, we can reach out to them and they'll like share best practices and model stuff. So, and it's free.
This came from a different
so.
ordinance.
Yeah, it was a Southeast PA ordinance I think he borrowed heavily from.
Selinsgrove Borough is actually the one who did that with us, I believe.
And then there was the question of the fee. Do we want to still charge brick and mortar, our own borough brick and mortar businesses, if they're having a food truck somewhere in our borough, do we want to still charge them a fee because they are our own brick and mortar businesses? Do we want to encourage them to continue to do more business in our borough and not charge them the fee? Mayor at first was like, oh yeah, that's good. And then he thought about it and thought, no, they're still a profit generating business, so we should still charge them the fee. And the fee is inexpensive, $25 each time, or I think $80 for the whole year. So I'm throwing that out there to council of, do we want to differentiate between our own vendors from our own borough versus vendors that come in from outside? Do we want to have different fees? Do we want to not charge our own brick and mortar businesses? How do we feel about that?
For the transient retail business, charge
Right.
a borough business. But you do, anybody that's not within the borough, then they pay a fee. And it's,
Right, yeah, the transient retail.
but they
business
still
is
have to, let us know that they're going door to door. Because some people are really offended and frightened by that. And so they still have to file that they're doing that, and so that the police department knows.
The borough, or the mayor thought, because there's still some administrative costs to an application, still the application has to be approved, so someone still has to go out there, the chief or mayor still have to go out there and approve the location, and then the paperwork by the staff still has to be done, so he didn't know that not charging them at all would make sense. So it would I think it would be kind of nice and a nice gesture on the borough's part to charge at least less for our own brick and mortar businesses, and I think there's only 2 right now that have food trucks, like Rusty Rail and Ivy Coffee, just not talking. So, do we want to
Is
charge
there a
them
huge
less?
revenue that the borough makes on this mobile food vendor?
It's $25 or $80.
Yeah, so like, I guess I really never put into consideration, like you're just talking about Rusty Rail, it uses a ton of water to brew. I didn't realize like that's how their sewage is also good.
Okay, but the waste they put out is
Yeah,
a tough waste to
Yeah.
do.
It's complicated,
Well, no,
probably,
but
but
what
yeah,
I'm saying,
it's
like
fair.
there, like, okay, Restaurant wants to throw their food truck up,
Mhm.
you know, the shopping center or something, they have an agreement that they're going down there for something.
Yeah.
There's one of the bones they get or perks they get, you're in the borough, so
Yeah.
your permit's a lot cheaper than,
That's kind
you
of what I
know.
think. If you're a brick and mortar business, you chose to put your brick and mortar business in our borough, you know, so here's a little perk.
At the end of the day, if it's me or mayor going out to check I'm here regardless, so if I have to go out and look at a location and say, yep, you're
Better
good to
than looking
go.
at sewer stuff, isn't it?
Yeah,
Better than Rob's job.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like
That's what I mean, like, I'm here anyhow, so.
the basis for fees and permit things like this should be based on like what is the actual administrative time or some burden like that. I mean, if we do something that creates like zones or there are parking lots or things like that, you can really start to knock down.
One of the things that we were concerned
Yeah,
about as well
like-
was having any food truck just go into the park.
Gotcha.
You know, an ice
Sure.
cream truck luring kids in, or you know what I mean. Like it was a little scary. We wanted to at least know that they were
I mean
permitted.
that
I think there definitely
you want to know who they
needs to be a
are.
permit side.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we shouldn't have it, I think there definitely needs to be it, but. April 6, 2021.
How do we feel about solidifying this into an ordinance? Do you think it's time? I personally think it's time. Tested Dave a few months ago.
Give it back to Dave and tell him. Sure.
I think and ask council members to share feedback too, right? Because I remember he did a lot of the work. There are things in here that I think are probably too much. I think there are probably things Strace or Colby or anyone thinks maybe it's a little much. If we send that to him and he gives it a rip, solicit feedback from Pelicans and the Rail and Ivy, send it out and go from there. But yeah, it needs to go up or down, right? Because there's nothing, like Trace can't do anything. That's a bad spot to be in. You go out there to enforce something and there's nothing you got nothing. So that's not good.
We could talk about that more than when Mayor comes, just to basically have the two decisions kind of we have to lean towards. Do we want to solidify this into an ordinance now? Is it time? And what fees do we want to charge our own brick and mortar businesses? Do we want to charge them fees, charge them less fees? Do we charge them the same? You know, and kind of get those kind of general consensus going so the mayor has a direction of what to do with this thing. And probably better clarify what is private party and what is public party or public, you know? So if the school or somebody has, you know, a function on their property,
I saw one operate the other
that's a
night.
break.
I know Margaret might have had this experience living in Sunbury growing up. Did you have an ice cream truck that drove the?
Yes.
Oh.
I was down in Schuylkill Haven
Hear
for
the
a
music and you have
Schuylkill Haven the other night down at that graduation. Mr. Softy was driving the street. Yep, and they would stop so we can run it out and they'd buy ice cream, and then eventually while we were sitting in the football field waiting for graduation to start, they pulled in an adjoining parking lot. And then they sat there until graduation was over. So that, you know, that thing was moving, is what I'm saying, and that would be under that same thing, but anyway.
Did you get all your comments?
That feels fine to
Do you
me.
have anything
Mr.
else
Softies.
Yeah.
No, I haven't had to deal with it up until the other day. I got
I'm trying
a
to watch your
message to
time
go
for
check
you.
on Ivy Coffee, and it doesn't really matter because we don't have an ordinance, so they can tell me to go pound sand and nothing I can do. That being said, there was no issues. I mean, had they had a permit and said, here's where we're setting up, it would have been approved. It was not creating any issues, no site triangle, no issues with foot traffic. Parking was fine for people who wanted to stop.
So they got a permit or they did not?
They did not, and apparently once they were told they needed a permit, they still did not.
And so how is that fair to the other food trucks that have gotten permits in the past?
I suggested they just go up to the intermediate school and put in their parking lot. They're in West Buffalo Township and it doesn't matter.
True. True.
That's how the market solves it, right? Is you just, yeah, anyway.
I am gonna get out of here shortly and it's, wait, she's not gonna leave without me. Oh,
Over, pick your daughter over you any day.
that's a fact. See you guys.
See ya.
See you, Trace.
See ya.
Take care.
All right. Discussion regarding public sewer communications.
Yeah, this was me. So I think this is straightforward. I understand why some of the nature, some of the challenges we have with the sewer get discussed in executive session. That makes sense to me. But it's also pretty clear to me that regardless of what we do, there are going to be changes in what the cost to residents look like. And to me, the longer we defer, like broad, clear, and like relatively loud, not like volume wise, but loud communication in the community about what this problem looks like, the worse it will be. And that's the gist of it. I know Linda and I had gone back and forth a little bit about, how do you communicate with a resident or business owner before you know exactly what you're going to do. I think you start to explain the actual problem, right? So I think that can look like having the conservation district come in here and talk about why, like the actual sewerage, like the nature of why these particular issues are breaking the law. I think it can look like things HRG puts together that explain the actual engineering problem. I think that can be videos. I think it can be posts on the website. I think it can be inserts in the bill. I think that's a really good unlock in terms of communication with residents. I think it can be free press articles. But I think that the longer we wait, even if it's just explaining this is the problem and here's the basis for why basically why the Clean Water Act is a thing, I think will help us in the long run.
To explain too that more information is going to come, because here's the problem: we don't know what our solution is yet. That's why I'm a little hesitant to put it out too early, because you might just kind of frighten people, But on the one hand, you want to inform people. Like, it's a little sketchy whether you want to inform them when you don't know what your plan is yet and what that means to them. So.
Well, and I think there's quite a few people that already know there's issues, because that's why nobody can build.
Yeah. They don't.
They might not understand it, but they know there's the issue because you can't build.
What the magnitude
Yes.
is, and they don't know, and we don't know what part they're going to have to play to help us fix it. A lot of it's going to be cha-ching. Some of this money's going to come out of your pocket, but there are some things that you can do on your property to help us, to help all the community, So without knowing all that part is of how it's going to impact them, we cannot give that information until we know what our plan is. So.
Yeah.
So if we put something out now, we can explain the magnitude of the problem and simply say more to follow when we have more detailed information to give you on the plan and how you can help.
Well, and
not that we don't know what we're doing yet.
Right, and
that,
and I don't remember if we did this before too, but explaining as far as if your downspouts go into the sewer, this is what it looks like. Mm-hmm. If your sump pumps go into the sewer, this is what it looks like. But I think we've done that. We have.
In news and views all the time, right?
Yes,
but
we
I
have.
don't think we've explained it in a way of this is how many gallons you will generate. And this is what it means for our treatment plant, and how much dollars and gallons, that it doesn't take for us to process.
And we know this is what's going on, because when it rains, this is happening.
Yeah. And you guys can do that's a straightforward engineering calc, right? Roof size to
It is if we're just talking about roof drains.
Roof drains, yeah.
If we're talking about infiltration for French drains.
Much harder. Okay.
Yeah, there's estimates, whatever, right? Sure.
But then they can at least have a different sense, because then it's personal to them. Oh, my roof drain could cause this amount of problem down here, and I'm only one person in the borough. So if all of us, a lot of us are doing this, I can understand why this is going here.
And how many people just have no clue if their roof roof drain goes into the sewer? I wouldn't know.
Most of them probably don't
I
care.
wouldn't know.
Most of them
large
don't care.
a large portion of them probably do not know, right?
Right. By looking, you wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say probably 90% of the residents out there don't know. I'm gonna say there's probably 95 to 98% don't care.
Don't care.
True.
We have to help them.
Because my yard ain't wet, I don't care where it sits.
Exactly.
So I'm-
It can go in the sewer. My yard's not wet, and I'm happy.
I'm less sure about the second one, but you folks have been doing this longer than me, so I'll defer. But the piece that is the fear, I'm not sure afraid is the right way to frame it so much as it's like concern, right? Like, we have this problem. It's a big problem. Here's what it is. Here's how it works engineering-wise. Here's some things you can do that are relatively affordable. Given the scope of the problem, any of the solutions are going to result in substantial rate increases. To me, that is very, very clear. And the longer we defer communicating that, right? Like, we saw it happen last year with electricity, right? When the increases happened and it was a really short time period to try and get people in and talk about it, right? These sewer rate increases, right? They're going to be double-digit percentages, right? Like, pretty much, unless manna falls from heaven in terms of grant money. And I would rather have a longer period of time to talk with folks about that and have a really good understanding of the why, than get through budget cycle, whether it's this year it starts or next year it starts or even the year after that, at some point, right? Like, if we're talking about a $70 average user and the numbers Dave has already shared and what we know Penvest is going to look like they're big increases. And I'm not sure that whether folks understand the issue because they know we can't build it up. You can't build a house in Mifflinburg right now, or they know the school was anxious and concerned. I'm not sure they know that we're talking about big percentage increases over the next decade to solve this problem if we stay as the sewer utility. And if we don't stay as the sewer utility, it's still a substantial increase, right? Either way. That's one of the reasons why I wanted this bullet point to go after the capital improvements plan. It's like that phase 3, I don't see any version of that is not like substantial increases. And that conversation to me just has to start happening for folks. So
I'll just add that in my experience, the first question that people ask is how much is it going to cost?
Yeah.
So by spearheading that potentially by kind of ripping off the Band-Aid, if you will, not with actual numbers, but with just the sentiment that there is anticipated to be a substantial increase, I think if people are aware of that, it's not going to make it like perfect. Of course, people are not going to be happy. I don't blame them. But it may head off a lot of the anger that you might see if it's kind of not communicated as early as it can be.
I think that's fair. I think though the second question they're gonna follow up with after they ask how much it's gonna cost is what are you doing to fix it?
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And that's the phase 1 list, right? That's the project list. So,
And that's our cap too.
right, we have the cap,
It's a multifaceted approach. It's not
Which-
just sewer pipe.
which is one of the challenges, I think, with the fact that we're doing so much work with respect to attorney advisement. I understand the nature of like the adversarial relationship with DEP in this instance, right? But even someone who is observant and does take the time to read minutes, which is a extremely thin slice of the community, right? They would still not be able to see the vast majority of the work that Margaret and Rob and Dave and all these guys everyone has done the past 20 years. A lot of it is not clear to the community. So like thinking about, can we put that together and have it ready to go and like tell this story about our sewer system in Mifflinburg I will tell you that document or whatever it is that we prepare, that content, that media source, that's going to be useful for grants too, right? And communicating with some of these other folks that I'm trying to basically beg for money, right? Like if we have this compelling narrative of what are we doing, what has happened, that will be valuable for us. And I'll think a lot of it's there, right? The stories are certainly there. Whether it's written down in a form that's ready to be shared with the public is tough because it's hard to talk about, but or I think it's hard to talk about. So.
How do we turn that into an action item now? And what month do we want to start sticking flyers in our inserts, and what meat and potatoes do we want to put into this notice, and who's going to draft the notice? Is it going to be a combination between HRG and Margaret, or how we convert this wonderful idea into actual action?
I think if there's buy-in, right, to start communicating before, that's the piece where we've kind of trying to sort out. Can we start communicating that rate increases are coming before we have the full story on this is what we're going to do? And if we defer another budget cycle, right, on like what I think these rate increases are going to look like, that's actually one question that we didn't ask during the capital. How long will it take? If we said yes 2 weeks from now, is that a 3 month?
4 months, I thought.
4?
Yeah,
Okay,
that sounds right.
it's on there. Okay, so we're like right in the middle
4 months.
of budget cycle then,
Sorry, I don't want to
right?
do the wrong thing.
Okay. I still think we're better off to start talking about what is the problem and rate increases are coming, even if we don't have the solution, right? Which means basically like immediately starting on crafting that narrative with Margaret, HRG, and then elected official buy-in to like start telling the story within your own circle of folks, constituents, neighbors, whatever. And be ready for people to ask questions and be upset or whatever the case might be. But it's coming.
Well, I think you need to keep it pretty simple for them to understand as well. Very simple.
Pictures.
Yeah, I think pictures, video, I really do think. I think video in that plant when it's rocking versus video when it's not is like so compelling. We have a problem.
How many people came to the sewer plant when they had the grand opening? Wasn't that many, was there?
Yeah, that's fair.
Science.
It's super
I was
cool.
there, and I thought it was
It's super
very
cool.
interesting. And I wasn't on
Yours would
council.
be the-
That was my little 2-year siesta or something.
Did you guys ever do school field trip tours?
Yeah, I think that would
Dave
help
ever
too.
do school field trip tours at all?
Yeah, Bucknell was just down
Bucknell?
there.
Yep. Let's go. That's right.
2 weeks ago, maybe.
Your
They reached out to-
towards the own schools.
I think it was Bucknell students.
All right, can I keep us moving? It all ties together in the end. Okay. 2026 CDBG grant application.
Make a run. So, worked up a project here to submit for CBG. Margaret and I had met with Angie Kemmerling, and I know her as that. She's got a married name now, and I don't know what it is.
Hunselman.
Hunselman, is that what it is? I've always known her as Kemmerling, but
Yep.
harder for me to remember. Anyway, she met with us to go over the new applications for 2026 to try and come up with a project, particularly related to sewer. As you know, they always tell us that the 88 corners, even though we still have a few yet to do, aren't attractive, and the last couple they haven't funded for us. And the problem always is us having to do the surveys, and because Mifflinburg is not a entitlement community, so we're not guaranteed low mod income, monies from CBG. So, but when she came here this time, she shared with us, we do have a portion of the borough, because they break things out by census blocks and groups. I don't know if you guys understand that. That's how they determine a lot of the census information as far as income-driven stuff in communities. And a portion of our borough is qualified, And I don't know why that wasn't shared with us before, but anyway, she brought a map and said the eastern portion, which we're flabbergasted because it makes no sense. So when I say eastern portion,
See?
eastern portion is, so if you can
Did you
envision
print
this,
that copy of the map out?
I did not. 3rd Street and East. So Shipton Street, Landing Street, East Market, East Green.
No.
Okay.
Does it make sense to you?
I would like to not answer that. I think it sounds great that it qualifies.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
So there's
Some,
a lot
sometimes
of older
intu-
people down
sometimes
there.
intuition is wrong, you know?
There's a lot of older people
Yeah,
down there.
whatever. Sounds good to me.
54 point something percent, and that is low mod income. So I didn't argue. Of course, I don't know why it all of a sudden changed, because the census only comes out every 10 years. So the data was from 2020. So I don't know what changed. Anyway, I was like, great. Well, I can come up with a project there. The only bad thing is, obviously, we haven't done huge amounts of camera work down there with the CCTV ratings. But I did know several areas because of the work that we've done as the borough areas. And I looked at a couple of them. I started running some numbers. I was talking to Margaret. I knew we had done some work on the Chestnut Street area, parochial care, if you know where that, the old CPO2 building, it's down there in front of Wise's, which is now parochial
Oh,
care.
yeah.
Across from the soap store. Anyway, they had all kinds of sewer problems. We had to dig it up and fix. There was a lateral issue. It was our issue, so we had to pay a contractor to dig it up because it was big and it was in the state road. So Catalius did it. At the same time, they dug ours, that one up. They did some repairs for across the road, the plaza there.
Pickers.
Street.
Mrs. Street had a problem. They fixed up her portion of the lateral out there that went out to Albert Street. I'll get those two mixed up. Either Albert or Klinger. So I was looking at that section because that's all terracotta pipe. And when they had that dug up, I saw a lot of black soil again. So we know that's definitely an area. But running the numbers, I realized very quickly that it wasn't going to work because the restoration requirements from PennDOT were going to drive the cost up too much. So Angie mentioned that they have about $250,000 a year for the 2026 monies, and they give $30,000 to the county housing authority.
Something like that.
And she said normally beyond that they get nothing. So I had to kind of figure something out for around $200,000 ish. So happen to think we did some work up in that camera work up in the Bogar Lane area. It was very bad up near your sister's. So that was a project I picked after I ran the numbers and said, oh, this is going to work. So lo and behold, I put together an application for CDBG monies.
Is that terracotta too?
Yep. 210,000, and we're asking for 170 in grant funds, being that we normally pay for the engineering, because then we can just work with our engineers to do that work. If not, then we have to seek proposals from other engineers. And so 170K is what I came up with the cost for that. And it's only I thought there would be better because they're next to where your sister lives. There's a portion that goes over to Apple Alley, so there's no street restoration, so I get more bang for my buck.
Nice, Rob.
So it's just gonna be yard restoration, so.
Is Apple Alley the one that comes up behind her house?
East Street, comes up
No,
behind
it's-
East Street,
It's behind East Street, yeah.
It's the
but it
one-
comes up behind her house, yes.
the one way or whatever.
But
'Cause,
there's
yeah,
no
there's a-
road there
wasn't there
behind your sister, but
transformer
it
in-
goes all the way up through.
It sort of looks like a road.
It's a paper street.
Yeah.
So that restoration, I figured, I told Murray the 200K may get us 2 sections, long sections of pipe. Well, this one I got 3, and the manholes associated with it. And Apple Alley is on our list of the PennVest funding, so it all ties together. So that's what we submitted for that.
And then further in our discussions with Angie, there is a statewide CDBG grant
Forgot to mention.
application that is due in February. And so the idea would be that we would kind of tie this into a bigger project in that area.
And is
that's
that
up to-
the from the list, or do we already have do we already know?
No,
the
that's not on
project
the
is?
list because everything else is earmarked. That's this area I chose is a new area. that I know has severe problems.
Thank you.
Like I said, there's more than enough to go
6
around.
years?
And it only come,
It could have been doing this for 6 years now.
yeah, this one was something we happened to camera for other reasons. I couldn't tell you why we were up there camera, but I know it's bad.
Okay.
And it's all
So,
terracotta.
and that's the meeting that's on the,
July.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do we, is that like a meeting where the county commissioners are deciding how to allocate this funds? Is that the right framing?
They'll have a preliminary meeting to hear the projects, and normally what happens is Angie and the other staff that administers the CDBG
Okay.
programs in the Cedar region, so each county has their allotment of money. CETA
Yep.
does administer almost all those monies for those 11 counties. Some
Yep.
counties still administer it themselves, but the CETA staff presents that to the county commissioners. Hey, I got Project X in Union County.
Okay.
This is Project B in Union County.
Do they rank them? Like, is there a political process from
I
CEDACOG?
don't think they rank them. And then after that presentation meeting, then they have another meeting, and I have the schedule for that. I can certainly send it to
Yeah.
you. And then they'll make those decisions where they'll have another meeting, a commissioners meeting where they'll make those decisions.
And that's the meeting where you're asking for us to advocate if we're able to make it.
I would try to go to both, just to.
Okay.
This year, I think Margaret and/or I should probably go, just because.
Yeah.
Try and push them to.
You guys know all the details, of course. Yeah.
So anyway, then we would also go through the application process, and I think
State.
Angie would help us with that as well for the state. And that would be in February. And that, I can't remember what the limit, I wanted to say 750,000, she said, but I don't remember.
I think it was 5, but maybe I might be thinking one of the other ones we've already applied for.
So,
Okay.
anyway, that's CDBG for
So
now.
CDBG, is this once a year, or do they distribute twice a year? How
It's
many-
a once-a-year thing,
Once a year.
but it's
They have-
really slow coming.
They have monies, this is the 2026 monies. When you apply, the most recent ones, it took 3 years to get the money.
I was gonna say two.
And we
but
can't
it was
start
3.
anything
I know.
until we get that money.
And so that's part of what he's referring to as well as, okay, so now we've picked that one, and then we find this other grant that comes up, like an LSA grant that comes up every year.
Can't apply for that to fix this one because it's already on the shelf now,
Yeah.
waiting to see if it gets funded.
And that's where the list becomes valuable because you can.
Okay,
All right. Thank you.
DCED grant application, just moving on.
Yeah, getting you the monies, because you approved the resolution kind of open-ended. I told you the max was 250, and we'd probably be all in for that amount, very close. $248,736, and I said, the most you would be in for the match would be, because it's 15%, would be $37,500, but our match, if you do the math, is $37,310.40. So that got submitted
What
on
was
time.
it, 248, what?
248,736 is the total project cost.
Okay.
Do you know when we find out about that? I know it was a May 31.
January.
January of 7. Okay.
Yeah, end of year. We might know December.
Okay.
Same time frame as the DCNR ones.
Okay.
That one, that's the one that we really got to push, folks. So reach out. I said before, you guys start getting in the hip pockets of these legislators and constituents and making phone calls. Hop up and talk to Stephanie and y'all's office, even if it's just an email or phone call. That's still good. We really need this grant because if we get the DCNR one, we can't go ahead with the DCNR project until we have this. This is taking care of the driveway issue. Want me to continue on?
Yep,
Project updates. First off, I'll mention we went on the mountain line on Friday, and the guys took bets as to how long it would be till it broke. They came in Monday. Jason was joking around with the guys. Well, it didn't break, did it? Literally about an hour and a half, hour or so later, it broke. So the mountain line is down again, and we were only on it for the
From the
weekend.
Water. Okay.
For
Yeah.
the intake.
So we don't know where or what?
Oh
They
no,
found
it's we found it, but we'll have to make a repair. But it's offline now again. But I'm serious. This is one of those things I'm gonna keep hounding you about. We're gonna have some serious. You guys get to make all the big decisions, but this one again is gonna be one of those ones that we're gonna need to address that. That's probably, I don't know. I can go back and look. Probably about 8 repairs in the last year and a half.
Oh.
There's a lot of pressure on that line.
Couldn't even be higher. I'd have to look at all the.
I wouldn't guess either.
It sounds like a milkshake.
But we've had a lot of breaks on that line. Just, and the impoundment's not in good shape, as you know, we've talked about that before, but I just wanted to mention, we were on it for the weekend and came in Monday, and Monday morning it broke.
When do we get the hydrogeo back on the we approved
The
it last
sources,
meeting,
yeah.
the sources.
Yep.
We didn't even start yet, really.
Okay, so that's like 6 months, a year?
Remember the time frame for the resource plan?
It's October, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's due in October.
Okay. 6 months. Not even, okay.
All right, moving down the list, it's on here, Cherry Alley, just mentioned, if you noticed, all the sewer piping main, it was all installed and complete. It all passed the testing. I expect paving to not happen within 2 weeks. We usually kind of give time for the trench to settle. And they'll, because you always have settlement, which is good. You don't want to pave it right away, because if the pavement settles, then you have a bigger issue. Let it settle, they'll top it off, and then come in and do pave. So I expect that within 2 weeks. Still getting everything done before the 4th. I made them promise me that would happen, because I think contract time goes to July 9th or something like that.
Oh, we need the contract substantial completion prior to the 4th.
Is it a final completion?
Final
There was a
one.
date after
Final,
July 4th.
probably after, yeah.
Just because, it's right near the park and the parking, and we want that all dressed up for.
Shoot.
So that's that. H2O project, pre-con was held on 5/14, and notice to proceed was issued the same date. So we met with Catilius, who's the GC. We do need to meet with the electrical contractors. You guys just awarded that. Has the intent award been issued to the electrical contractor?
Yeah, no
So
problem.
that's been issued, but we haven't had a
Their
pre-con
feedback
yet
on
for the,
timing for the
so that'll be coming up probably in the next
2 weeks.
2 weeks. There you go.
Somewhere in there.
Walnut Street project update, notice of intent award was issued on 5/27, and the contract docs were sent out to the contractor. So they're just in the infancy stages of getting started with that. I expect a pre-con probably in the next, same thing, 2 weeks on that job as well.
We also have a pre-con scheduled for the curb cuts project.
Oh, that's right, yeah, I
That's
forgot
not
about
on the
that,
list,
that's not on
yeah.
the list.
That'll
So
be
the 88
next week.
CDBG monies we got from 3 years ago, we're just getting started, because we just got that money, but that's gonna kick off, and we are outbid, you guys award the project, and we'll be having that pre-con here with
Big Rock.
Big Rock. I was gonna say Rock something,
That's
Big
next
Rock.
Wednesday.
So, that's it, unless there's questions.
Limestone Township.
Leak?
No
Still running, Phil Walters reached out to me last week to see if we had come up with anything in the way of, we put some loggers out, and couldn't get, we actually put them out twice, and we didn't get any hits on the loggers. I did reach out to the company that we got the loggers from, just to check to see if we're doing everything right with those, and maybe something we could do, because the problem is it's PVC pipe. He did recommend that they should all be within 300 feet when we put them out of each other, but.
You don't always have something to hook onto within 300 feet.
What's that?
You don't always have something to hook onto
Correct.
within 300
Yeah,
feet.
that's the issue. But we've not determined, and the numbers are still up. Oh, that's right, because the numbers came in the day after the council meeting.
Yeah.
We're still at 400 and change.
450. Okay.
I don't remember the exact number, but like 485, something like that.
Is July for the July 1st bill gonna be?
August.
I never
think.
did get the notice to them because they never called me back. Because
Okay.
we heard that they
Okay.
dissolved the municipal authority.
Yeah, it's just the
And-
township, right?
Right,
Okay.
and so I called the township secretary. I called and left a message at the office and on her cell phone. Can't remember her name right now.
Haynes,
Yeah, that's it.
Teresa?
Yep, that's it. And I never got a call back, and I'd forgotten about it because I left. So I need to get in touch with them.
Okay.
Yeah, the letter we sent out to West Buffalo it says August.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, I'm gonna jump to the pool concession stand stuff really quick. So, got the concession stand open, and they're working through. We don't have all the materials yet, all the supplies. We aren't doing any of the cooking because no one has taken the training. So it's all prepackaged stuff, but we're making it work. I did give you some numbers I thought you might find interesting. So in 2025, we sold 1 adult pass. Before we opened in 2026, we sold 5. Student passes in 2025, we sold 6. Before we opened, so this is prior to, we sold 25. Family passes doesn't look as good, but they usually trickle in later. But 25, we sold 29 passes, and we sold 15 before we opened in 26. So those are some good numbers. I heard that they were really busy down there today.
Well, they had the whole Pelicans thing and
Yeah.
cap thing and
A lot.
pizza. Oh yeah, there was a lot.
Just quick, so you said passes sold, so this includes all the free ones too, or these are actually passes that people bought that don't live in the borough? Understand my question?
These are all family passes, like the ones that are for the whole season.
Yeah, the student passes, because they gave, passes were free for all students.
No.
No,
No,
we
we
ended
didn't
up.
do that.
Change those.
Oh,
$25.
Yeah, we did 25 and we did $3 for everybody, which like simplifies it a lot down there. But we ended up charging $25
For the season.
Yeah.
For the
Okay,
season.
and I misunderstood.
I think the adults are
Sorry.
expensive though. Somebody did the math and told me that they're like,
We-
I'll just pay the $3.
We messed it up. Fair enough, whatever.
Yeah, all right.
That happens.
Whatever.
I mean, it was like they had to go like more than 3
I thought
days
that
a
was
week.
free.
That's kind of
Yeah, but still,
Now
you
you-
could go.
Yeah. So
Sometimes
anyway,
I think they're gonna go.
all right. Then, just some other updates. You'll get, I didn't send it out because it came in and I sent you a lot of stuff already for tonight, but you'll get a proposal from HRG to resubmit the PennVest application, and there's some other information in with that as well. You'll see that, and I'll ask you to act on that at the council meeting.
So just to add to that, there's gonna be a resolution that needs to be adopted and approval of the revised budget for, the project, the overall project, just upping by the amount that is in the proposal for RFP. And then there is a public notice requirement from DEP. I don't know why they're making us do it again. I literally took the one that we did last time with the categorical exclusion, changed the date and resubmitted it. I'm waiting for DEP to give the all clear, to re-advertise that, and that's a requirement, 30-day public notice, prior to the application.
So that's to hit our July deadline.
Those all need to be adopted or approved at the meeting in 2 weeks.
Margaret, you listened in on the PennVest meeting this last cycle, right? Is that a meeting like the county meeting that like we could go to? There's their public comment at that meeting?
Okay, so I just did the virtual version.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
And it was it seemed cut and dried and decided by the time we
It got to the-
Decisions are already made at that point.
by the time it gets to the actual
Yeah.
meeting, it's
That
already.
money, I believe, is getting more and more political.
Yep.
If you are eligible for grants, is
Okay.
how I understand it. So there is definitely merit if there could be some political reach out, political support there. I mean, we have the letters of support, but everyone has letters of support, so.
So I am also working with the, with Wagner Dries Alsasser to see if they'll provide a letter. I've had to provide them what the calculated bills would be for
Yeah.
the utilities, sent them the spreadsheet, and they sent an email with a few more questions and crickets. So I'll reach back out again to see and kind of tell them we need it
We
sooner
need it,
rather
yeah.
than later.
Yeah, we definitely need
Um, Hopefully we can make that happen. If not, maybe we just send a letter along that we sign off on with a copy of this spreadsheet for the bills. I don't know. I don't know why they haven't heard back yet. A couple other things that are gonna come up. We talked about the Rusty Rail a little bit. They have submitted a request for another water service to their property. And this would be over in their overflow parking area from the restaurant. And so they're requesting that water service there. Now, they already do have water service to their building. And some of the ordinances say you get one connection per property. but, we've done differently when the distance between the connections is pretty far apart. Because we have a transfer loop throughout that, so that's the request, that they have this additional service, and then the way the ordinance reads, you're supposed to have an associated sewer charge with it, unless, council excludes it, you know, for a reason. So, for example, at Ritz-Craft, they have a yard hydrant that they use solely to charge up the plumbing lines, to test them, to make sure they're not leaking, and then it all drains out on the ground, and we've exempted that, so they just have a water service for that. So they're saying this is the same thing, and I'll share a copy of this letter with all of you prior to the next meeting. So that's something that's come in recently that didn't make the list.
I will mention I have grave concerns over their intent with what they're gonna do with water. You guys get to make that decision, but
Is that where they're putting in the stage or something like that? Or what are they, like,
did you see my text before coming in?
Yeah, so they told us, I can tell you what the letter says. So we continue investing in improvements to the property and surrounding areas. One of our primary goals is to create a welcoming and visually appealing environment for both residents and visitors. Access to water would allow us to properly maintain landscaping, water, flowers, establish grass seed, and preserve green spaces that will help beautify the area and enhance the overall appearance of the community. We believe this project, they're just calling it an outdoor project space. They're not really naming it as a outdoor venue or anything like that. We believe this project will positively contribute to the borough by improving the look of the property, encouraging tourism and foot traffic, and creating an outdoor space that the community can take pride in. Our intention is not only to improve our business property, but to also contribute to the continued growth and attractiveness of the borough as a whole.
They only use domestic water for this? To water that?
Mhm.
Well, they just capture the rainwater.
Did they pull a permit for, like, did they have to pull permits and do that process to make this?
Tapping fee to tap onto our water system, which you guys need to approve.
Which we need to figure, yeah.
Especially, if it's not gonna include sewer.
Okay. And is this drinking? I think you use potable water. I mean, it's just regular city water,
Yeah.
but they intend to use it for outdoor use only, is what the letter says.
That's
Linda,
Okay.
Linda raised a good
Yeah.
point. There's an underground spring that runs nonstop that comes underneath that building, dumps into that ditch along the rail trail,
I don't
runs
think we
all
should
year round.
encourage people to use this potable water for
But to answer your question about the stage area, when I saw some of the concept plans way back when, that it's would serve that area where they were proposing to put that stage. When I saw those concept plans,
okay.
the area over by the elm tree, that's
Right.
over there, the big
Mhm.
elm
Where
tree.
they put, because they were gonna put it up against the fence, correct?
So I got a phone call today about them paving, which I kind of knew about, but I was asked to check on things. I did, and when I drove down after work, there's a structure there now, or part of a structure. I don't know what it is.
They're a wet bar. That's why they need the water.
This is my concerns.
Okay.
I
Okay.
know Bev works there, but this is my concerns with these guys, unfortunately.
Okay.
So there's a structure that appeared there that they have no permits. I don't know what it is. They might say it's bike racks, but I don't.
It almost
Okay.
looks like a trellis of some kind, right?
I don't know, we'll get more information.
Maybe
Yeah,
lights.
Prior to the meeting.
It feels like CK, like they just need to have a conversation with Garrett and explain kind of what's going on and
I
then
saw
go
it
from
when I
there.
walked
Is
last
that
night. I
reasonable?
didn't know what it was.
Okay. Okay.
Give them an inch to take it one.
Okay, I'm gonna keep
All right.
moving here. We'll also have a stormwater maintenance and developers agreement for the Sheets property that'll require action at the council meeting.
When's that starting?
I didn't get a start date, but they have all their permits. They could start tomorrow if they wanted to.
Just close it down and rip it down.
They're not ripping it down. It's
Oh.
just a remodel.
Oh, okay.
The canopy's coming down, and the canopy will be smaller.
Is that where the gas?
Yeah, where the gas
Yeah.
pumps are,
Sheets.
and there'll be.
Yeah,
I think they told me there was.
sheets.
I think an extra pump island, even though the canopy's going to get smaller, and they're adding. Just like Lewisburg, they'll have more of the other gases, the ethanol free and
No beer garden?
So are they getting rid of lighting? Because we had an issue with lighting down there when they first opened, like light pollution and stuff like
That's
that.
why they rebuilt them, to put the beer garden in.
I
The
don't-
canopy will not be attached to the building now, so when you pump your gas and when you walk in the rain, you're gonna get wet until you get in, you have to go in the building.
But will there be a beer garden?
And a hot dog roller inside.
Good
Okay.
answer that.
Okay,
They
I'm
do
gonna
have
keep
good
us
hot dogs.
moving, because we didn't even get to the
Have
lengthy
you tried
part
the
yet.
streets hot dogs?
Yeah.
For $1.
Don't diss them.
Okay,
Boom,
so,
boom, boom,
moving
sauce.
on here, we'll also have a request for use of the park from a Child Evangelism Fellowship of Snyder and Union Counties to have a 5-day club from July 27th through the 31st from 11:15 a.m. to 12:45 p.m. in the park. Every day there will be 2 summer missionaries that will lead the children in songs, a Bible lesson, Bible verse, missionary story, and a snack will also be provided. There was a potential conflict in that the library every Thursday has their reading program at the park that you've already approved. I contacted the library, they said they don't care if they use pavilion number 2 on Thursday, and they can use pavilion number 1 the other days, but on Thursday they'd go over there. I talked to both parties, it should be okay. All right, and then I believe that the rest is all executive session information.
I have one thing to hand out. I got this late, and I don't anticipate discussion on this. I had reached out to, and I didn't give Margaret a heads up. I apologize on agenda. I have a proposal from some folks in the Bucknell Econ department to talk about just some like economic policy advice, not dissimilar from how we get engineering advice. The proposal's there. This is not urgent at all, as far as I'm concerned. So I printed it out because mostly for Wagner, and I'll email this out as well. But if we could maybe put this on the agenda for like July. I know the PMEA folks are coming at some point, so maybe it's August. But even as we think about like budget cycle for next year, even having some resources, I think for this kind of work would be valuable. I think. So the details are there. If you have questions, if you have other things that you would want out of this, Professor Kinnaman and are wonderful, and I'm sure would be happy to answer any questions.
So this would cost $3,000,
Yep.
and this would have. I guess I go back to the whole like. I know you're in favor of property taxes. I'm not so sure the rest of council is in favor. I guess we need to know that before we keep pushing property
Yep. So
taxes.
this, I want to, if we're going to talk substantively about it, I want to make sure there's buy-in to do that. To some extent, this is an ask for someone, not me, right, to come to council and talk about how taxation works in general, right, what the trade-offs are, and then some specific aspects about how Mifflinburg funds the government. And to do that, right, these folks require to be paid for their time. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Can we go to executive session now?